word strength, Matt Wenning is one of the first names that comes to mind. Matt has decades of experience in powerlifting. Matt has totaled, over 2,800 pounds. Matt is doing this into his 40s and he's doing it injury-free. So I think that says a lot about an individual when they're able to put together a system, and that system is going to help you get stronger and get better as you're getting older. That says a lot, and I'm just honored to call Matt a friend. I'm honored to work with Matt, and I'm honored to see Matt become a rising star in the industry. So if you're someone that is looking to pursue muscle, athletic performance, whatever that might be, Matt's one of your guys.
Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. And today I was asked a video by one of my Patreon members what I thought about Mike Israetel talking with Dr. Michael Yesis on YouTube about how Louis Simmons's Westside conjugate system was not Russian. And I want to clear up a couple of things to let you guys understand that I think what they were saying was not correct at all. And I will give you a lot of different references on these points. So the big thing is we need to dive into step one, Louis Simmons's volume parameters. So if we look at Louis Simmons's volume parameters, they were mostly dictated by A.S. Prilepin's chart. A.S. Prilepin was a Soviet statistician that studied hundreds, if not thousands, of lifters and found what the mean range was for their maximal effort lifts and different percentages of lifts. These particular parameters were followed through with fairly regular continuity to the A.S. Prilepin chart at Westside Barbell when I was lifting there for about 10 years. So for the volume parameters of how many lifts you do at 90%, 60%, etc., the A.S. Prilepin chart was heavily loaded and heavily utilized at the Westside Barbell facility at that time. So what the type of volume parameters they were using were 100% Russian. The next big thing that we have to look at is exercise selection. And if we read Vorbiev and Medvedev's works on exercise selection, we start to see that at the advanced levels, a lot of guys were having upwards of 100 different exercises for different lifts. Now, this is interesting because in their lifting protocol, it was the clean and jerk and the snatch. And for us, it was the squat, bench, and the deadlift. For Louis and Westside Barbell at the time that I was there, from 99 to about 2008, we had about 35 to 40 different variations for squatting, deadlifting, and bench pressing. So we had about 100 variations as well, but split over 3 lifts. Now, what's interesting is that if you watch the video, Michael Yesis talks about how when he went to the Soviet Union, he didn't see any of this training, which is not uncommon and doesn't surprise me. Again, if this was a top secret training methodology utilized by only the top lifters at the Dynamo Club, then what we would find is that why would they show the enemy, i.e. the United States, show their researchers or any of their athlete developing people what they're doing at the top? They're not going to. They're going to show them the old, different, and possibly more archaic ways of training that might be utilized in the lower levels or lower ranks of training, i.e. the Bulgarian system. The Bulgarian system only had about 6 to 10 different exercises rotated, and the guy whose name was Abadev that was their coach. Abadev believed in that the athlete fit the system. They had this very cutthroat system with very few exercises and multiple maxing sessions, sometimes even in the same day, and broke down a lot of people. But when you start with 1,000 people in one weight class and you're only trying to find 3, it's not a bad system, but it left a lot of guys broken and screwed up. The Soviets realized that if they wanted good research, that they needed more masters of sport or people being able to lift at a national or world-class level, and they needed to be able to sustain them for multiple world records. So Medvedev and a handful of the super strong guys like Alexiev and Borchenko and all these other guys, they were set in a system that had way more variety. And what they found was not only were the guys more excited to train, the amount of volume that they were able to do effectively doubled. So think about, this is how hard you can train doing a simplistic system, and now you have a complex system that doubles the volume of course you're going to get stronger. But again, if we look at it from a geographical standpoint, if we know that Russia is roughly 2.5 times the size of the United States, then we probably know that the Russian system probably had a lot of different pockets of systems. Verkhoshansky did not train the same way as Zatsiorsky. Zatsiorsky did not train the exact same way as Medvedev. All of them had their own little specialties and their own little areas. But I find that a lot of the top champions trained with Medvedev, and for a good reason. Medvedev was not only an amazing researcher and understander of training and a trainer of the Olympic weightlifters, he was also a gold medalist in and of himself and an Olympics flag holder for the Soviet Union, and I want to say 1952 or 56. The point is that a lot of their coaches were very well gifted and trained themselves. They weren't just applicable guys. So when you see like, oh, well, Boris Shiko's Russian, he doesn't train like Louis. Again, Boris Shiko may have never had the opportunity to be around Medvedev or the Dynamo Club. And when you're just trying to find genetic freaks, it won't matter that you use a very cutthroat system that's not very good at preserving the athlete because you're only trying to get one medal run out of them. The other thing that throws into this YouTube video is the use of drugs. And what you find is that although Westside Barbell did use anabolic steroids, just like every other world champion did, the Soviets were probably the pioneers of utilizing drugs for performance. So that kind of is null and void, saying that you can't utilize Louis' conjugate system for training because you would need to take a lot of drugs. Well, that would completely nullify everything out of the Soviet and the Bulgarian system there in and of itself. If we do a little bit of studying on drugs and performance, we realize that this goes far past the Americans and the Russians and has been utilized in multiple countries in multiple eras for many years. So I don't believe that that's a very good statement to say. The next thing is that it only works for equipped lifters. Now, although that may appear true, then that would not appear true in my case because I trained conjugate throughout my entire professional career and broke equipped and raw world records. So that kind of gets thrown out the window as well. So I know it's difficult because both of the guys talking on the YouTube channel are doctors. Both of them seem to be experts in their field, but neither of them trained at Westside Barbell, and neither of them had to ever sit down and actually talk with Louis about how to train. Now, Louis wasn't correct with everything. We all have our own different advantages and disadvantages based on where we come from and what we feel works and what we feel is best. But I wouldn't negate the fact that Louis wasn't smart enough to pick up these books and attempt to emulate what he saw with the Russian system. So if I were to give it a full grade of 100% Russian and let's say 0% is Westside is no Russian, I would say that Louis' system is probably somewhere around 80% Soviet, at least thought of, or at least derived from. So this is Matt Wenning at wenningstrength.com, and come visit us on the website.